Okay, I think we're actually live. Everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know how much announcement I need to do, but this is the hopefully the inaugural episode of what right now is being called Dropping In at Pipeline Audio, and hopefully I'll be having people in to talk about audio engineering and studio stuff and just the general stuff we talk about on Facebook and IRC and Reaper Forum and wherever else. And today I got Iron Angel and I have Tim Gray.
Hello.
And why don't you guys say a little bit about who you guys are?
Go, Tim.
All right. Hi, I'm Tim. Excuse me while I cough. Hi, I'm Tim Gray. I have been working in the AV industry for over 25 years now. And professional audio, such as large venue, large permanent venue for audio, for at least 10 years. I trained, well, kind of trained. I got to shadow some of the industry leaders in designs of very large venue audio. So I got to deal with everything from outdoor large stages to indoor amphitheaters, you name it. And it's just now I work for one of the industry manufacturers, and I actually am an instructor teaching the audio classes along with a few others.
And I'm Iron Angel. I've been in audio for, 25 years. Front of house, system designs, all kinds of other bizarreness. And for about the past 5 years, I've been the front of house engineer and sound design engineer for a traveling dance company.
All right, so you guys are perfect for what's supposed to be today's topic, which is I named it Dante's Inferno. I really think that we're going to start moving away from big multi-channel audio interfaces because everybody's got an Ethernet port on their computer. We should be using network audio, and I think one of the more viable ones right now is Dante, and Tim, you are an expert in there, and I'm doing this from the inside of my music school, so we're probably gonna have drums and crap in the background going through, but that just makes it more legit. So, Tim, could you explain a little bit about the Dante network?
Absolutely. In fact, actually, let me go a little bit back further. Digital audio is specifically no longer running the huge snakes to the stage and things like that, have actually been the norm now for very large touring companies for at least 5 years. It's just been uncommon. Well, number one, the snakes are expensive to maintain. They're horribly expensive to replace because you're looking at long runs. And now everybody in the venue carries a transmitter with them. Everybody's got a cell phone, so you're having all kinds of ingress problems. Well, with digital audio, you can have two Cat5s run to that stage and get 128 channels of audio all the way back if you need it. It's been the standard. In fact, every single system I designed and installed in the past 5 years was 100% digital audio to the stage. Now, here's the fun part. Digital audio, when it was first came about, was for live sound, for very large house of worship, large audio spaces where latency that doesn't matter a lot from microphone to speaker.
Oh God, he said the L word.
Oh yeah, because discussions that I had with what you, Aaron, what you came up with, what you discovered in your school and your studio, I nailed down a couple of the Audinate sales guys. Because the number one thing, and I'll tell you right now, Dante is very low latency, inside of Dante world. 150 microseconds, which is 0.015 milliseconds. Okay, yeah, that makes sense with networking and everything else. The problem is, once you touch the computer, all bets are off. And it's simply because digital audio, especially network-based digital audio, doesn't take into consideration processing inside of the computer. But it's not just the only place where it happens. I've got Dante audio going to a DSP that's running my loudspeakers for loudspeaker management. I've got a minimum of 6 milliseconds right there. The best loudspeaker management DSP on the market is 6 milliseconds from input to output.
Music school.
You can't get any lower, which in a large. Then can I delay the mains to the further back towers? The people in the audience don't care. But what ends up going to, you know, the in-ear monitors? Yeah, at that point we start having issues.
Yeah, they teach.
So what do we run into with Dante Audio? Well, it's just audio on the network, and Dante is only one of the flavors. There's many other flavors out there. Dante is the most popular, simply because they throw in a lot of their parts into everybody to make it cheap. Okay, for what is it? About $45, or is it up to $50 now? The software driver, so that Windows can receive and transmit Dante Audio. A lot of devices are now, all they have to do is buy that Audinate chip, and now they're Dante. It's very, very popular. Everybody supports it. But, here's the other advantage of it. You could, if you have a simple network, whereas everything connects into the single switch, you don't even have to configure it. You can use a dumb switch. You don't even have to give devices IP addresses. They'll self-address by using a link local scheme. But once you start getting into something like a recording studio, you start running into issues, and you're going to run into these issues with everybody's digital audio system. Simply because once you touch the computer, it's really hard to keep that latency down.
Yep.
It's basically a translation problem, isn't it?
Kind of. The issue is we're sending that data. Here's what's happening under the hood. If we're talking about actual nuts and bolts, Dante, if you send one channel of Dante, you're not sending one, you're sending 4. You're sending 1 of audio and 3 blank as UDP datagrams on the network. When they get to the other end, they need to be torn apart and changed, and then translated into the audio format that whatever your software you're using on your computer is going to use. Then it's got to go back the other way, go back into the chip, turned back into a single audio channel with 3 blanks, and then sent back out on the network. You're always sending 4 audio channels, even if you're only sending 1. So it's just how it's formulated. It's how they keep the data flowing. So if you send 1 or 4 channels, it's the same amount of data. And it's not a lot of data. You don't need gigabit. It helps. But you don't need gigabit if you're using a small number of channels. Same as you don't actually even need a managed network switch. You can get away with a not even a Home Depot, like a Best Buy special unmanaged switch if you have, let's say, only 5-6 devices. When you start getting larger, then things can start getting really weird. Like, let's say, one of the last Dante systems I installed, it was actually for a very large college. We had 6 boxes on the stage for inputs that were all Dante. Then I had 2-channel, you could buy Dante 2-channel input plates. Basically, it's either 2 in, 2 out, or 1 in, 1 out. Everything was on the network. So instead of running analog everywhere, all the plates on the stage and in the stage area were all on the network Dante. Well, by the time I was done, I had about 65 devices all on the network. Now I needed to do some management with data, which can then at that point, if you're an audio guy, guess what? You now need to be the network guy, which can create a whole new set of problems, because is this an audio problem or is this a network problem?
Well, we're starting to see that with some of the DAWs and things as well. Reaper, for example, the external control on, sometimes it's a IP error, sometimes it's an audio error. You have to figure out which one's which.
Yeah, are you guys using that, like the Reaper WWW or the Touch OSC or whatever?
A Touch OSC I has.
Yeah, on occasion.
Yeah. Although
early on, oh sorry.
No. It's just Touch OSC is a really good idea until you start wanting actual physical hardware So I now have PreSonus here, so I can actually touch the faders.
Ah.
I'm not good at touching a piece of glass and hitting the same thing every time. I like to be able to not even look and feel the fader, and now I can move it.
I don't even know. I wouldn't want to put anybody through one of my rants about trying to dial in and adjust guitar amplifier software on a iPad where you've got no fine tuning, no
It's so
no values at a
frustrating.
glance, and just you're hoping you're wiggling glass well enough to get it exactly where you want it. Pain.
I mean, granted, all of us are pretty old school. I suppose somebody who just came into it and that's what's normal to them might have a better chance with it. But yeah,
Could be. So the advantages of network audio in general, to me, I mean, the big one to me is that we've all got Ethernet ports. Yeah, you might need to add some more to get whatever, but for me at this school, for instance, we have this big 32 channel snake out there, and with Dante, theoretically, every computer that's in this whole school that can get on this particular network can have access to that audio, which is just absolutely awesome if I could get people interested in learning recording stuff.
Yeah, and think about like adding a vocal booth. You don't have to have a separate run there, just a network drop. And the same network drop that you're using so that they can look at something in the booth is the same drop that you can send the audio across.
Oh,
So,
let's
it's
talk
I
back.
like that.
yeah, and you can have talkback. Like I said, there's a little small Dante devices. It's one channel in, one channel out. So now you got your talkback along with the mic in the booth. So you got a lot of options. The other thing is you can also do multi-point. Like you were saying, everything can get it. Well, think about what if you're doing this once of a lifetime. You have a band that showed up that nobody's going to believe they're there, and they're going to jamming, and you can fire up recording. Well, I want to make sure I record them, so I'm going to fire up 4 computers and have all 4 recording at the same time for redundancy.
Wow.
You can do that, and it will be frame accurate.
So we got a question in the chat room. Do the audio networks, probably specifically Dante, still have to comply with standard Ethernet and Cat5 and 6 protocols and rules?
Well, yeah, it's just TCP/IP. It's just networking. So yes, it does need the rules, but it doesn't need a ton of configuration. In fact, actually, you saw that when I was giving you a hand for your first setup.
Yeah.
It just showed up. You didn't address anything. Correct. You didn't. It comes up with automatic link local 169 addresses on a dumb switch, and it's ready to go. And that's all the farther you need to go. If that's all you need to work, then you're awesome. Otherwise, if you want it to be on the same network as some other things, then there's a little bit of configuration, but it still runs there. So yeah, you honestly, Dante works better on gigabit. Why? If you're sending other things along with Dante and a lot of channels, you need bandwidth, which means Cat5e at a minimum. I strongly suggest, especially if anybody's doing anything new, especially in today's world, running either Cat5e shielded or at least Cat6e. Reason being is that shielding is going to reject noise, electrical noise from cell phones, things like that. Is it an issue? Not always, except for large venues. I had an issue where we did Dante audio in a house of worship, where it worked perfectly when we were setting everything up. But once we got 6,000 people in the church, it wouldn't work because there's 6,000 cell phones all in one location transmitting.
Jeez.
So we had to replace all the Cat5 with Cat6e, which was shielded, and the problem went away.
Wow. So we have, the Ethernet cable going out to this snake in the live room. Really, that one's over a different protocol called AES50. And I guess they say like that one's different because it's point to point or whatever, so you can't just go splitting it all over the place. And so like I see, I think QSC maybe has their own network protocol too. Like there's a
QSC's
couple out there, right?
got their QNet. BSS has their own. Everybody really has their own. there's two that are the most popular. One of them is called AVB, which is actually also designed for video.
I was about to ask you about Motu.
Yeah, the problem with it is, well, you can just plug in the network. Well, no, because if the switch doesn't support AVB, it will not support it.
Oh.
So that means you have to buy a switch that supports AVB, which is usually twice the price of a standard switch, or you got to buy the licensing for it. Then on top of that, I want to run AVB into the PC. You don't have as many options. The thing is that all of these audio companies, this is the biggest thing. I think they don't understand that getting that audio in and out of a PC is more important than getting it from the board back to all the way up to the stage. The PC, even in live events, you've got AC/DC on the stage doing one of their last farewell tours. Guess what? There's a PC there at the audio guy who's recording the event, and he wants to record every single channel. It's considered a second thought. And I don't think they should be doing that because they're thinking that everything, you need to process that. Well, you're going to go into that DSP. Why? Why can't I go into this PC? Why can't I go into this computer instead of a DSP? Why can't I go into a computer that has far more processing power and far more plugins for processing? There's no reason for that guitarist to have a giant pile of pedals up there. I should be able to have everything right here in the processing PC, do everything for him. All he's got is a MIDI controller.
That'll definitely be another one of these episodes where I've been spending the last year and something doing the whole bringing the studio to the stage for guitar players thing. But yeah, that's the thing.
That's the problem. There is you're fighting the nature of guitar players. Guitar players as a whole love 1958.
Yeah, but we're also fighting the designers of the software and the hardware who have no idea what you actually... This is how Reaper came about. I was watching how all the DAWs being built for us were not written from the perspective of somebody who actually had to use them for a living. And, just the basic things that engineers needed, the software manufacturers were like, oh, why would you need that? No, just do it our way. And we're seeing that with a lot of the guitar stuff, but... this year, I think we've really seen some good stuff coming up. But
we're finally over the hill on that. People are starting to embrace it. For the longest time, trying to explain to somebody this is a much better system. Well, but that's not what Jimi Hendrix used. Yeah. And unfortunately, because the people who are in the companies that are promoting these new things are still of that mindset, we're fighting that kind of across the board.
Well, the other aspect is that change is scary.
Yeah.
And on top of change, to go where you can go today, you can't be that guy who's, only thing I know is beer and guitar.
Yeah.
You need to know, you need to be able to work around a computer, you need to be able to work around electronics, you need to be able to plug things in, understand what you're looking at. Today's artist needs to be an expert in many different fields.
And it's not just in music. That's really across the board. Look at car design at this point. You absolutely have to know IT. I can speak English. You have to know IT to be able to work on a car now. And that's going to be everything. So, music's no different.
A lot of these platforms that we have right now, and I'll give you a really good example of what I've been spending the last 2 years or whatever on with these companies. Ideally for when you're playing one of these guitar simulators or an amp or, whatever, a modeling system, one signal that needs to go to the PA, assuming you don't have a bunch of Stone Age barbarians that insist on miking the amps of a full range flat response guitar cabinet, with a tweeter in it that pretty much is a PA speaker. Assuming you want to send a signal straight to the PA from that modeler, that thing's got to have a speaker simulator on it. If you also have your amplifier going out to a regular guitar speaker, 12-inch mid-range speaker, you need to have no cabinet simulator on it. So you need both of those signals at the same time, cabinet simulator and no cabinet simulator. And almost all the architectures out there to this point, there's some tricks you can use, but in general, the standalones, the VSTs, even though with VST you can kind of get away with it and other tricks, but they just aren't thinking about it that way, you know. But you have to think about the signal chain from the guitar player's hands all the way to the audience, and the companies, you know, you can tell them till you're blue in the face, and they may not listen. And luckily, this last year, I kind of wrote this kind of huge manifesto to one of the companies, and their newest product is ticking all the boxes. So hopefully we're looking at some good stuff this year.
Well, publish that, because the rest of them need to read it too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you want to get in ahead of your competitor. This is what you absolutely must have.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they send me a thank you when they're done, if they do win the market, but that doesn't always happen.
How many have you been locked out of?
I don't know. So, you know, most of the time it's my own doing. I have a rather opinionated person, so.
Well, you're also you're focused on the tech and the correct answer instead of the biggest thing that drives me nuts in a lot of AV forums, especially audio forums and mixing. Well, this right here makes the audio sound brighter. You know, there's no such thing. It's not brighter. You either got more high frequency, you got more low, you know, and some of the terminology that people use, I hate it because it's inaccurate. And when they're trying to describe something to someone else, and they're like, oh, okay, so I need to give my voice more volume. And what does that mean? Do I need to be louder? No. You know, and
I love the guys that'll walk in and say, can you kick my voice up 2.2 dB at 1K and give me about a 3 dB drop at 250?
Yeah, they know what they're looking for.
Exactly.
And I there's nothing that gets me kicked off of forums or Facebook groups faster than when people want to use those weasel words like warmth and stuff. Like, oh no, you need a mic preamp to warm up the sound. I'm like, what the hell is it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, God.
Warmth is distortion. Let's be honest.
Or color, you know, is
Yeah.
color distortion?
Oh, yeah.
Or is color just?
Oh.
But to me, everything's distortion. You know, if you're changing the frequency response, you're distorting. So I always have to ask. You know, when people say this DAW sounds better than that DAW, even if it were true, I always got to ask, what flavor of broken do you think sounds better on everything you put it through? I mean, some brokens will work on some things, and some brokens will work on other things, and sometimes you don't want it broken.
Exactly. It's the problem is that the audio industry, there is a huge gap between the people who have the touchy-feely thoughts, and you know what, they may have been doing this for 20 years, but they still don't really know what they're talking about, and then the engineer level, which is, well, you know, there's only one clean signal, and anything that you do to that is damage. Okay, you can take a clean signal and then damage it to make it sound better, but you're always damaging that signal. You're either compressing it, you're doing something to it to modify it. And
well, let's go back just a second there and clarify sound better. Sounds better to them. Audio
Yes.
is so incredibly individual and so, you know, yeah, subjective. So, sorry.
well,
I had to
well,
stick
no,
to that.
it's 100% correct, because the world has been trained. Honestly, today I weep for audio, because today the youth are trained to listen to garbage. They are listening to compressed to hell streaming audio. They'd have no clue what dynamic range sound like. They have 90% of them don't even have a clue what something sounds like in a clean set of monitors in a clean room.
See, I've heard this argument before, and this comes back around to something else Pipeline has said before. A good song is still a good song.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
when we went through the transistor radio era, those things sounded terrible.
Oh, you want the best one from John? You're in my era. In the 1980s, a band burst onto the metal scene and destroyed everybody else with the world's crappiest master. That would be Poison.
Oh, yeah.
Their master was garbage. It was
Yes.
done on a cassette tape. The hiss was at epic levels, yet they destroyed a lot of other bands at that time in popularity.
I thought you were going to
Correct.
say Guns N' Roses, because the very
Oh, yeah,
early
their
Guns N'
first
Roses
one.
was terrible.
Yeah, their very first one was just horrid, but they were after that. Guns N' Roses came after that in their popularity. And that's the thing. you can have an awesome song that sounds like crap and it's still awesome. Correct. But what drives me nuts is the what is it, the current trend? Lo-fi grunge core?
Yes.
Yeah, where they intentionally try to they take a really good sounding song, really good sounding recording, and then, well, you can download a VST to give it tape hiss.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like hipster stuff.
Well, it is. It's the whole Swedish chainsaw guitar sound applied to everything.
Including vocals.
Yes.
My brother has is like a noise band, or it's like really fast, like metal-y kind of stuff, but they really like this like lo-fi kind of sound. I think it harkens back to them feeling DIY or whatever, but like, man, I can actually make that sound good if you want. No, that's cool.
Crust punk, we don't want it.
Sometimes we telephone vocals or whatever, but I don't know. I eventually want to hear something clear.
The SoundCloud mumble rappers, it's become an aesthetic to them because they don't know how to record well. And room noise is actually a feature now. They're looking for the worst sounding rooms they can find, and they're doing it intentionally.
Yeah, I see those kids doing the rap. They download some kind of beat thing on their phone, and then they do all their vocals on their phone. And I'm like, that's pretty resourceful. At least you're getting something done, and they're
you're getting something tracked.
Yeah, and they're turning out piles of songs on their phones. Like, wow.
What's really bizarre to me is occasionally I've heard stuff recorded on a phone that sounded good, but they were in a good room.
Wow.
Or, strangely, the one that really weirded me out, there was a guy doing the RPM challenge a few years ago that used his minivan. And I'm listening to this going, now, wait a minute, what are you recording on? My iPhone.
Wow.
You gotta be joking. Because it compressed the snot out of it. He didn't have to compress the vocal at all. It was rolling the very bottom of his voice off, so there was decent clarity. There's that little bit of a upper mid boost that the phone naturally gives because of the shape of the case and the mic and the electronics. So basically, he was more or less getting a 58-like effect just because of the equipment he was using. And the room, quote unquote, that he was in had basically a very dead environment. So
it was one of those 70s vans that you kidnap people in, so you had it all soundproofed and everything?
It was a soundproof minivan. I can't remember what he actually does, but he had to have, like, he transports autistic kids or something like that. He had to have the road noise and stuff reduced.
I hope he had free candy spray painted on the outside.
I think it was tacos.
Oh, man.
Because, come on, free tacos.
I'll take free tacos, man.
But think about this, tying this back to digital audio or digital audio over network. There's already tools out there, and it's not for a professional level. I'm seeing it mostly in the open source world, where you can use your iPhone with a decent microphone plugged in over wireless to get it into the board. One of them that I use, and I actually use it regularly for a link from all the way up and basically for over 1,200 miles to do some of the recordings that we do for the podcast. And let me open this up. I am using a program out there called Voice Meter.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's the virtual audio cable guy.
Yes, the virtual audio cable guy has a open source codec for over the network, and it works with a phone. So I can I can install it on the phone, and then now this phone is a wireless microphone as long as I'm connected to the network. Here's the cool part. You set up your phone to do a VPN back into your network over the internet. Now I can be anywhere in the world, and I'm getting my audio back into my mixer.
Wow. So let's see. The first official shout out of this show goes to, I think his name is Vince Burrell. Does that sound familiar?
I think so. Hold on. I'll take a look.
Virtual audio cable, which solved some... I don't even want to talk about it on this show, but we're still 20 years in, and we still have a lot of trouble moving audio from one program on a computer to another, which is completely ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Come on, guys. Everybody at least get ASIO control on your crap or something. Man, I don't even want to think about it. It's just
audio
so
is
frustrating.
So frustrating on computers. It's not even funny. You want to go to Linux, okay, you're going to have to deal with, before it was Pulse Audio, now it's Jack. Jack helps a lot, but come on, people.
Yeah. How about some installers on Linux?
Yeah, it's Vincent Burrell. He's
All right.
Yep. So and his program works without paying for it, but yet I bought 3 copies because I'm going, or I did the three times on the support because this program has saved me so much frustration.
Yeah, good.
So, and here's the funny part: this guy has been doing this for a while, and he's filling a need that the pro companies out there can't figure out. Microsoft can't figure out.
So you remember our early attempt at this was adding reroute, right? So, but I mean that doesn't work with everything. But now OBS seems to have an ASIO driver that sort of works, and you could always plug ADAT cables into ADAT cables in like a multi-channel interface or whatever. But it looks like with Dante you can actually tie things together. So we're like, okay, that might have solved it for me with the Dante virtual driver.
Here's a question you would know, Pipe. How does Ninny Jam and Dante play?
I have no idea, but it should work as normal because Dante, on my end at least, Dante feels like a regular sound card driver, and then also has parts of something like RME's Total Mix. Doesn't have the DSP or whatever, but it does have the routing. So I'm not sure what the rules are. I don't think you can combine 2 inputs into 1 output or whatever, but I've been able to take 1 output and send it to multiple places. So it's very much like Total Mix in that regard. So you should be able to get it working with Ninjam and stuff.
Basically, just treat Dante as a virtual patch board. It's just a giant patch board.
Yeah.
See,
so you can patch anything anywhere.
But I wasn't certain.
But it doesn't have like mixer stuff.
No,
it does have routing stuff.
It has routing. It basically you're making patches. There is no mixer built in. You have to use something external for that. They intentionally designed it. It is distribution. It is not processing. It's only distribution over the network.
It's essentially a virtual cable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just a buttload of virtual cables.
Yeah. So so my end is a little bit different. Oh man, there's Sonus Man right there. You got a mic on you, Ed?
Oh, I'm just on my phone here.
Oh man, welcome aboard. I don't know if you know these guys, but hopefully the internet knows you. Ed Ray used to rule everything, write all the articles so you could actually learn something about compression, and now he's doing a lot of live sound lately. We're talking about Dante and network audio, in case you've been tuned in at all.
I have not heard a single word yet.
All right. That's how we like people to be, is completely informed.
Right.
Perfect.
We're talking about Dante network audio, and Ed's the guy I've been leaning on for all this since we've been moving to this X32 M32 stuff. So he understands this a lot better than I do. So I did put a Dante card inside the M32, and that's where I started bugging Tim about. And for recording, it's going to be different than live. We do have the latency issue to think about. We probably don't have as many channels to worry about as you crazy live guys with 5,000 piece trap horn section mics going all over the place and back and forth to TV vans and everything else. But even then, it does get kind of complicated. And I don't want to burn any bridges, but it really feels to me like that forced 8 millisecond round trip latency on the virtual driver is a dongle. I mean, it could be that a regular thing couldn't process it much less than that, but for the most part, audio companies have always let us be the chance, the judge, take a chance on something like that. So let us turn that down and see if it starts crackling on us. I'd like to see.
I personally agree with you on that. I am almost 100% certain they chose that because they wanted it to work on all hardware, all PCs, like this guy's really cheesy laptop all the way up to whatever. Whereas if you did have a machine that was screaming fast, it should be able to process things faster.
Well, I'll give you a bad one. So I have the Focusrite RedNet, which is Focusrite's version of the Dante PCI card for the computer, and but we also had the Dante virtual driver. So if I go to 64 samples on the the DVS driver, I should choke a computer. It should be glitching and popping all over the place. It doesn't. If I go 64 on the PCI card, it does. And at 128, I do get a few dropouts on the PCI card. So at least on the ASIO buffer, never mind the 8 milliseconds extra processing, but ASIO to ASIO, apples to apples, the virtual sound card is safer than the hardware one. But then again, we've got 8 milliseconds more, so who knows what else is going on there. But that's why I told the guy at Audinate, I was like, what if we just paid way more for this driver, and then we didn't have to stick this other piece of hardware in? Because now we're talking, what are we going to do with laptops around here? You can't put a PCI card in there, so the only thing we can get is the RME, $5 bajillion USB one.
Yeah.
Or the really handy thing, which I loved seeing, and this, I think it still costs way the hell too much, but that little single channel or stereo or whatever little USB plug they got for Dante, that looks so handy for this school. I can't even tell you. Like if I had one of those glued to a wall in every room in here and you just plug your computer into it, that is awesome. Not that it should cost as much as it does, but whatever.
I know.
And somebody's going to look at the Reaper model at some point and go, if we did it cheaper, there'd be more people adopting it, using it everywhere, and they're just going to own everybody.
Yeah, if somebody finds a way to, make that same driver without the latency in it, I don't know that they can stop them. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But yeah, it would dominate it. That's why I don't want anything bad to happen to Audionate or Dante or whatever. But I would like to see it a little bit more open, and I really don't want to stick cards in computers. That's from last century.
Well, they are moving forward on it. In fact, actually at ISC here in Europe, they did announce that they have a new platform coming out. But here's the thing: they're not focusing on audio only. They're also looking at video with it. So whether or they didn't talk about any improvements to the audio side, they were all talking about the video. But again, that company is one of those that this honestly is their bread and butter, the audio distribution over the network. And the decisions they made to get themselves in the front over everybody else, they really need to keep.
I mean, but us too. Like if we're doing audio and we're not doing video, we're in trouble anyway, so we may as well get on board, right?
Yeah, to a point.
We got a question. What's the advantage of network audio? Is it strictly a matter of ease of connectivity of multiple devices? And I say for me, hell yeah, because that whole school can get access to that one set of mic preamps, which is absolutely awesome.
Also redundancy. With Dante, you can have 2 separate networks on Dante. So if one of them drops, without even a glitch, audio is dumped over to the secondary backup network. So you have higher redundancy. If I have only one snake going to the stage and some drunk comes up and cuts it or breaks it, I'm done. Having redundant analog snakes is not as easy to do as with a digital audio transmission over a network.
Well, there's also no noise. That's another huge thing.
Yeah. You can also have automatic noise correction on the network and things like that.
So this Andrew's saying he has a Dante PCIe card in a Thunderbolt 3 chassis, and he can use it with his desktop and laptop. So I wonder.
That's a nice idea. As long as your laptop supports Thunderbolt.
Man.
So.
Oh, man. So. This is a whole other thing. So, I've been, I haven't been paying as much attention to interfaces I have lately. So I put up a couple charts on my website of the 8-channel plus ADAT things that were around right now, and I'm still flummoxed by this Thunderbolt thing because, it's been for 5 years or whatever. We keep hearing Thunderbolts coming, and there are Thunderbolt devices out there, but they're so few and far between, and they seem to have such little literature behind them of people showing them working in the field, except for like a UAD something or a 2-channel or whatever. And I thought Thunderbolt was supposed to be PCI on a cable, and we'd all be running it by now. Why Why aren't we using Thunderbolt for everything?
I agree. It's Apple was the first one to introduce it, and it really didn't go anywhere in the Apple ecosystem. In fact, to the point where Apple said, "Yeah, screw that. We're going to USB-C." You could do hard drives. You can do a PCI cage to PCI cards. You can do multiple monitors. You can do all kinds of stuff over it, but the ecosystem never popped up around it. Then Dell and others jumped on, but it was too late. USB-C had already taken hold.
It reminds me very much of FireWire 2.0.
Yes.
When FireWire came out, good God, why didn't we all jump on that? And it's the exact same thing with Thunderbolt.
Oh, yeah. I have a couple of devices still around here that do FireWire 800. And I'm like, yeah, this was a really good idea. It just died on the vine.
Yeah, that was an early part of, I think, Jim Roseberry's career, right? He was one of the few guys who could always make sure that the FireWire audio worked. And he would know exactly which devices this year or that year you could buy that would actually do okay. And man, it was a chore getting FireWire to work for the most part as well, because most of the companies went with that Dice 2 chipset.
Yeah.
And that was okay. This is the kind of stuff I don't understand. Okay, so Dice 2 I think was owned by TC Electronic.
Correct.
They have their own audio interface that they're selling. So here you go with your company. You're gonna put the entire heart and brains of your product that you're selling in the hands of a competitor with the vested interest in seeing you fail. I'm not surprised that none of this Dice 2 stuff ever really worked very well. Seemed like a bad idea all around. So on this, let's see. So I don't know if I named this thing Dante's Inferno. I don't know if you guys were seeing what was happening to me over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely.
Dante stuff. So
I'll make it. One of the things I do in my class, I'm teaching students how to program DSPs, and along with that, we do a full Dante network. Well, I have a very, very, very minimal Dante network with 12 students at a time on it. And one of the things I try to show them is, okay, I need every single one of you to send 64 channels of audio. And they look at me like, how do I do that? I said, well, that's real easy. You got a DSP in front of you. Take your phone input and send it out all 64. I want everybody to saturate the network, and trying to show them. And basically, I give away coffee cups. Who can take my network down? And I usually give away two coffee cups a lot quicker than most people think, because it's like, well, all I did is this. And I look at it and I go, yeah, you created a data network loop. Wow. It's surprising how fast to tie right into Dante's Inferno, you can, with misconfiguration, cause absolute hell on your network. But you're sitting here going, well, wait a minute, it's just audio. This is just audio. I got a gigabit network. There's no way I should be able to take this down. Yes, you can.
It's basically a feedback loop, isn't it?
Well, remember, every single packet is a multicast packet. It's broadcast to everybody. So if everybody is broadcasting to everybody, things go sideways very quickly. That's why when you have a large number of devices, you must have a managed switch that can be set up for this multicast. And that's where a lot of the larger installs fall down. Now, if you've only got a couple of devices and you're only sending maybe 32 channels, you're fine. It's when all of a sudden you've got 10 devices, all 10, sending 64 channels and trying to receive 64 channels at the same time. Suddenly you've got so much of a packet storm running around. You've got so much multicast traffic running around in this network that everything is just colliding into each other.
So, to put it in simple terms, you're DDoSing your own network.
Yes, exactly.
It's incredible to think, though, that you even have a chance of being able to run audio like that. I mean, back in the day, oh, yeah, man, we got 4 tracks. 4 tracks, man, count them. 4 tracks, almost as many as I got fingers on my hands,
Oh, yeah.
Now we're talking piles and piles. But in my case, we had So this messed up. You know, I was having little glitchy problems with the Dante stuff that I'm working out with Focusrite and everybody else, which is to be expected. I'm trying to push things probably not where they're supposed to go for the recording side.
Oh,
But,
like that's new.
yeah, I'm always, you know, so you guys are conservative. I'm always on the edge because, you know, if it goes down, it goes down. But I'm in the middle of recording an audio book. And at nighttime, I'm testing out some betas of new guitar software, and I'm trying just different stuff. And we had another network computer kind of guy moved here to Hawaii, and we met him. He was going to set it up so that other people could use my computer, so we'd have like multiple accounts and stuff. And one day I update bias effects. Sorry, Positive Grid, I love you guys, but this is in your court this time. So I do the update to bias effects, and then I log into their tone cloud, and the whole computer freezes. I'm like, what in the hell? And I started back up. Computer freezes every time it tries to call home to the internet, and then I delete it, go back to the older version. It's still doing it, and so I go back to the other products that Positive Grid makes that always ran fine. When they went to open up and call back home, it froze the computer. And I went through all this crap, and I finally figured out after we reinstalled Windows. I mean, the whole deal. Like in the middle of this audiobook recording, reinstall Windows, lose all kinds of stuff that probably time to clean house anyway. But and hey, back up your computer. This is my fault for not doing backups. But we finally figure out that it only happens on the Dante stuff. All the other ASIO is working fine. And the worst part is the intermittent thing is that sometimes, even when I'm using Dante, like Wavesaur, even under ASIO, was not crashing at first. Then it started crashing. So this is a whole intermittent thing, and we're going back and forth with everybody. And I have the Focusrite guys all trying to repro it on their side, and they're saying, "Oh no, it's not doing it." And not that I don't think Positive Grid had any Dante stuff. The other Dante users were kind of okay, but they weren't quite on this same software. And finally, I double check with Focusrite. I'm like, "Look, you guys are logged in, right?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, I think so." And then I get an email back 5 minutes later. "Oh yeah, when it phoned home, it took out my computer too." And so,
oh wow,
if I unplug the Ethernet cable going to the internet, not the Ethernet cable going to Dante, it would not crash the computer. So this is okay. This is Positive Grid so far is the only one who's having this problem. But so definitely they need to look into it. But the fact that phone home could take your computer out, I'm kind of terrified of the drivers in general. And then here's the worst part of all. If I run the not $5 billion card, the Dante Virtual Sound card, doesn't crash.
Huh.
So it's Murphy's Law all the way down, but for the benefits that you get from Dante, I was as soon as Justin had a beta like 0.45 of Reaper, I was already moved over to it for all my projects I was actually working on at the time. So I like the edge because otherwise, if you're not breaking stuff, nobody's figuring out what's wrong.
Right. Well, it's good that Dante or that the Audinate actually. No, I'm sorry.
Positive Grid.
Yeah, Positive Grid. Oh well, no.
Focusrite got
Focusrite actually had it reproduced.
Yeah,
that means they see that there's a problem, which I'm hoping they're going to pay attention to because technically, there shouldn't be any network data trying to go over the Dante audio card. That audio card should be an audio ASIO interface to a network interface.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh yeah. So I may make sure people are kind of clear on this. At least in my configuration, I have an Ethernet card in my computer that goes to the internet and our school network. Another Ethernet card that goes to the Dante network to control it or configure it or something. I forget why that one's there. And then a third Ethernet cable that comes out of the Dante PCI card in the computer and goes to the network. So there's actually two Ethernet cards on the network, and I think. Oh, the weird thing was if I unplugged the Ethernet card that's going to the Dante switch, it would still crash. So it's only when you unplug the internet one that would keep Dante from crashing.
Huh.
So, but they did repro it, and it may not be that important to them because, and this is something I really want to talk to you guys about. things like guitar amp simulators and stuff, they tend to be used by home recorders. Not that you're not going to see them in full pro studios and stuff, but in general, those guys have 2-channel sound cards. You know, your Focusrite USB card, or you know, M Audio, or whatever the equivalent is now. But you know, this year there's so much guitar stuff coming out, and if you really want people to switch to Dante, it's going to have to work regardless of what the software is. And most of the plugins coming out now, like it or not, and I know people are getting really upset about this, but I don't know what you call it. The games, a lot of the video games do this, but there's like in-app purchases and microtransactions and stuff. Yeah. So they're calling home. I mean, all your plugins are calling home pretty soon, I think. I mean, Reaper, even Reaper calls home when it starts up, right? It checks to see if there's an update or something, I think. Or you could turn that off, I guess.
You can turn that off.
But with Positive Grid, if you want to get on the Tone Cloud, you got to log in.
Well, anything that uses iLock calls home. And that's why I've been actually on a crusade to get rid of iLock anything VST out of my tool set.
Oh, I have Slate Trigger 2, and that's on iLock, and I don't think there's a choice. But speaking of which, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the guys who make Addictive Drummer. They make the most unbelievable trigger plugin that has the most discrimination I've ever seen. It's just absolutely incredible. I think it's just called XLN Trigger. But now that Reaper has spectral editing, where they have the different colors for audio and stuff, I was hoping that maybe we could talk to some video guys who have been working with colors since time began and start creating noise gates based on the colors that are coming through. Like,
well,
I bet
that's an interesting idea.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah.
I bet you they know way more about discrimination. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to put people look like they're flying in the sky when they're just sitting in front of a screen, you know? So.
Well, exactly. And that's a great way of explaining how you do video keying. That's how they do it. They actually key it to like a green screen, but technically it's discrimination. It's exactly what's happening. Is it's looking for that specific. Actually, the old days, it was looking for a very specific voltage level in the signal, and that was going to cut it out. That's exactly how that works. Today, in digital, it's far more advanced, but yeah, in its essence, same thing.
But the concept of a chroma key gate is incredibly useful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, imagine gating on 1 kilohertz if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Or 60 cycle.
Yeah.
You guys, most of you guys know my struggles constantly of trying to have programmers local to me. Like, I always come out with tools that I need for my day-to-day life. And, you know, regate, that was a biggie. Like, I mean, you may think, oh, that's just a noise gate like anything else, but really nothing had the same features at the time, and the whole thing was about discrimination, and that is one of the tools that pulled a lot of people over. And I think, you know, it's time for the next generation. And this year, Slate puts out, and I think it's probably with the help of Alex Wilkinson, I would assume, something very close to a gate that I've been trying to work on for the last couple of years. And I think that's going to be our future, you know, multi-band. He's not really doing it that way, but I think a multi-band style of gate is what I'd really like to hear. And here you go. You know, not that you can patent ideas, and I'm sure 1,000 people have thought of it, even if it never hit the market yet. But I'd like to, you know, the classic Kryptonite and Superman matchup is toms and cymbals. And I could go for years of why the drummers are ruining it and playing wrong and what makes most of the problem. But I don't mind a little bit of cymbal at the very beginning of the tom. So if we had a multi-band gate that let the highs in for a second, but let the lows keep going for, you know, however long you want, that's what I really want to see, you know. So hopefully, if I knew how to, you know, everybody's always trying to teach me how to do C++, but it just doesn't take. So hopefully I got a coder around here and we'll get some of that done.
If you had a gate like that was somewhere between regate and refear, or fur, or however the hell you say it, that would be incredible, because you could dial that in.
Yeah, refer with adjustable attack and release for each band. You know,
that would be stunning.
Yeah,
that's something I want on a desk at front of house right there, because at that point in a live setting, I can clean up fan noise, I can clean up all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that's something else I think we're going to see with Dante is we're going to see physical desks that have all that processing in it, and you're going to Dante into it. You'll have the desk actually be your control surface, and then out through the front of house.
Well, that's kind of like what the X32. I can't believe we're talking about Behringer that they're
I know.
setting the paradigm for the world, but they are at this point. So.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that a large number of people go, oh, yeah, Behringer, they're garbage. I'm going, you do know that they bought Midas. Yeah. They did. They went from that garbage, that was low end, to now look at them today.
Well, the thing, there's a row of things that happened there. Midas was the logical end of it. They were cloning things, but they were trying to clone the best. They continually went through and went, how do we copy the best in the market? And the logical thing is to go, okay, we're just going to absorb some of these companies. And I think we're going to see Behringer get a few more companies in the next few years, too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely they will. In fact, actually, there's a huge amount of worry out in the audio industry that Behringer is going to become the 800-pound gorilla because they keep consuming these other companies. If we have another economic turndown where they have a large amount of money right now, and they're waiting for the next mild crash to go, hey, we're going to eat you, and we're going to eat you, and we're going to eat you because we want your tech.
Honestly, the one to watch is Joyo.
Yeah.
Behringer absorbs Joyo, they will own the market.
So I was trying to make a my bring the studio to the stage paradigm. I was trying to create a wireless battery-powered MIDI pedal board, and I just took a Behringer FCB 1010 and gutted it and put wireless MIDI in it. And Joyo had this battery that makes that thing last like a week at least. I don't know. I've never actually run out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was $60. You plug it into USB to charge it, and it'll run this pedal board for forever. And I just Velcroed right into the top of it. Those guys are making good stuff.
And honestly, their little shoebox amps they're making, if they make that thing, Dante, so you basically got your amp control, or you can control your amp remotely through MIDI, and then actually be able to send and receive audio through it. Good God.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then what they need to do is buy a company that can run impulses and then start selling impulses of microphones pointed at floors.
Yeah, for the authentic Hawaiian sound, yeah.
I really want the impulse of the mic pointed at the head.
Oh, I remember that one, but every once in a while tubes go microphonic and make that weird crackling and stuff. Like
I'll give you that.
You couldn't get some kind of crazy lightning noise coming out of that thing. So I remember recording guys' amps that would bring in these 5,000-year-old amps, but they had to use them. So it's old blues guys and jazz guys, and they were tube amps, but they had the old 2-prong power thing on them.
Oh God!
And we'd be recording them, and like when you're sitting behind it, plugging things in and stuff. Every time they play, you hear this weird. It's like the tubes are speakers, like this crackling.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, man, is this thing about to explode on me or what?
The plates would rattle in them. A buddy had a custom tuck and roll in blue sparkle vinyl that whispered at you.
Wow.
It was freaky. You turn the volume all the way down on it and then play into it, and you could actually hear what he was playing coming out of the tubes.
Oh, wow.
And I can't explain that.
What was the big band in the 80s that intentionally sought out broken electronics for their sound?
Which one? There were a couple.
Oh, yeah. So like Van Halen, then they used Variacs, right? That would crank down their junk.
They would intentionally break things for some of their sounds.
I can't come up with a name. There was a point at which they sold all their equipment or hawked it or whatever, and that just became their thing. For a while, they were using like grinders on pipes and this kind of crap, and when they started getting equipment, it was too good. And Nitzer Ebb is all I can come up with, and that's not them. But they toured together. Right? No, but they had a song that was very much like Kraftwerk that got some play, and that's why I connect them all the time. Actually, Kraftwerk had a lot of really top-end gear. And as I understand, they're still around and they're doing a lot with network audio too.
Oh wow, yeah. You know, people like see that's the thing. We need to get a way to get simple chew channels in and out of more devices through network audio, because you know there was a time at the very beginning of the multi-track modular digital multi-track, whatever, the ADAT and DA88 kind of thing, where you had a lot of devices with digital outs on them, but they were like SPDIF, and you're like, okay, how am I going to get this bike preamp with SPDIF into my DA88?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, unless I buy this crazy expensive format converter, which if I'm going to buy that, I may as well not have taken part in this modular digital multi-track. I should have just got a Sony PCM 3324 or.
And then you're back into latency again too.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, at least that's just converter latency or whatever. That's not.
Well, the fun part is that honestly, digital audio on its own has latency built in. Now, have we gotten better at it? Yes, but it's never going to be as good as analog.
Yeah, but
analog has instantaneous processing. It's an amazingly how fast analog can rip through things.
Well, I'd really like this, you know, definitely a whole episode on this, but that, and you know, if this is what you want to do, it's fine with me, but the guys who are, I call them latency purists, they drive me nuts.
Oh yeah.
Like if you know, for me, if I'm under 13 milliseconds, definitely if I'm under 10 milliseconds, for the most part, unless I'm doing an academic thing, I don't care. Sometimes it's goofy for speaking or singing, but in general for guitar or whatever, I just don't care. 10 milliseconds, give it to me. You know, and in all my, ever since computers came out, I've been recording on computers. I mean, like as soon as it was viable anyway to have a multi-channel recording, I've been around 10 milliseconds, and I've never had a customer ever say anything about it. Not in my entire time, you know. It's so when I see these guys who are just starting out and they're like, hey, I can only afford this this Focusrite thing and this microphone and stuff, and then all the pretensioneer experts who you know they're absolutely professionals because they have stacks of Guitar Center receipts or whatever.
Yep.
They tell the guy, oh no, you stupid noob, you can't record at all because that much latency will kill people, and like you're disrespecting your mother with that kind of latency. It's like they're crazy about this. It's like, hey, let the guy try it, and if it doesn't bother him, let him go. You know, it's like when you see these guys telling that, you know, some kids like, hey, what kind of pickup do I want in my guitar? And then the guy says, oh no, the year of wood that you have in your guitar won't work with that pickup. It has the wrong kind of water molecule alignment, and I know I'll get this show shut off of YouTube before it can even start if I start talking about goddamn tone wood. You know.
Well, obviously your paint's the wrong color.
Yeah. Yeah,
oh my God, you're recording on green?
Oh, man.
I will tell you, latency can be fun. Basically what you can do is you can enact an effect called the Haas effect.
I was going to go there.
if you have a singer that you don't particularly like, if you take the left channel that's going into their headphones, feed them mono, but take the left channel and then vary it by 4 milliseconds back and forth.
4 they won't hear. You got to do at least 8.
But it's enough to drive them insane after about 10 minutes, because the effect of what they hear in their head will start to drift of what they hear themselves, and it will throw them off. You can really play with people with the Haas effect. Haas effect is what they use for delaying the stage mains, or actually delaying the tower mains out further back to the stage mains. In fact, actually the stage mains would be delayed to the drum line, because the drums, you have to have the sound wave from the drums meet the sound wave at the stage mains, and then all of that meet out at the further out speaker towers, so that it sounds like what you're doing with the Haas effect is you're getting rid of reverb, but you're also screwing with people's heads. They could be standing next to a speaker and they won't hear that speaker. They'll go, wow, it's all coming from the stage. No, it's coming from the speaker next to your head. I'm screwing with you by using latency. Well, you can do some fun things with people with when they got cans on with it if you don't like them.
The thing is, though, Haas effect between 10 and 12 milliseconds actually sounds huge.
Oh
One
yeah.
of the best guitar effects there is. You just can't do it live.
Yeah, was that? I wonder if that's. I mean, that's pretty much what they're doing with Iron Man, right? I mean, like you couldn't get Tony Iommi to play the same part twice, I don't think, and it always had that doubled sound, but it wasn't like a delay double. It was moving. I wonder if that's something like that.
True Haas doesn't move, but you can automate it to force it to move.
Right. You can use some automations to move it around. Basically, you tie a flanger to move the latency delay.
Yeah, just a low frequency oscillator will do it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with network audio, you can stick all that stuff in there and set up your line arrays a mile out and still have it time aligned.
Yes. Rolling
that's
Stones
beautiful things.
did that out to 5 miles on the beaches of Rio de Janeiro.
Good Lord.
Yeah, but you're not going to hear it 5 miles, right?
Yeah, they had
Well-
a tower of speakers every 1,000 feet for 5 miles.
Holy crap!
Yeah. At that point, it behaves like it's all one unit.
That's rather decadent.
Oh yeah.
And you couldn't do that with analog because you'd have all the interacting of it would comb filter like you wouldn't believe.
You have to be in. Well, that's the thing. They're all directional. You want that audio to go out that direction. Now, it was just a big party. You think the people beyond 5,000 feet could see the stage? No, they could see the lights from the stage, but it wasn't. It was just a giant party. They wanted the audio to be in sync so you didn't get reverb.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
at
yeah,
that
you
point,
could-
it wouldn't be reverb though; it'd be comb filtering.
Right, but because they
That'd be
used
ugly.
directional line arrays, that it was all being fired the same way. Now, you'd get bounces off of buildings and things like that. Yeah, you can't really compensate for that stuff.
Right.
But you can make it as good as you can.
Well, the trick that Doc pulled at Earthshaker, where they used the time aligning into the ground drivers, that was cool.
What is that? What's a ground driver?
Doc Stillwell came up with the idea of basically mounting really big exciters. He hand-built exciters. Basically, it's a speaker that doesn't have a cone on it. And he attached it directly to a steel post driven into the ground, so the ground itself actually shook. The same way you've got a bass shaker on a couch for surround sound system or something like that, or a THX system. He did that to the actual venue back, I want to say 10 years ago. To the point that Manowar actually got in some trouble because they caused an international incident. He had contacted the guys that run the earthquake monitoring center at Vesuvius or wherever and said, look, I can send you the audio signal 180 degrees out of phase. So you can take this out of the seismographs. And they went, oh, it won't be a big deal. And it showed up.
Wow.
And that's another case for crazy network audio.
Well, the fun part is that, and we're drifting off into mass drivers. I used to do mass drivers behind drywall in really high-end restaurants. There's sound coming from this wall, but I don't see a speaker. Yep.
Strangely enough, we're doing that in the club we're building. I'm going to use mass drivers because like an idiot, I'm fixated on horns. I was going to put horns in there, and I realized, oh, geez, you can't get it far enough away from it for the wave to actually form. So I'm going to mass drive it.
Melt their ears.
It's funny, but for how much money people want to spend on records and how expensive everything is, like a regular restaurant install costs a fortune compared to like what you need to make on a studio. Like it kills me to always see these guys telling you got to be using these $5,000 mic preamps and stuff, and just how much this stuff costs to do the basic thing that they're talking about. And then you look at a theater install or something, you're like, holy crap, that's enough for 10 studios.
Well, and the fun part is, I see those and I laugh at that because it's like these experts say, oh, you need this mic and this mic and this mic. No, you need to do room treatment. A $30 microphone will sound better than a $5,000 microphone in a room that's well treated.
Well, that was it was the thing about the God damn it, not the 47, the other one. Whatever the hell the other big famous mic was. It sounded good in bad rooms.
Yeah, well, it all depends on it. But a really expensive microphone in a crap room is going to sound like crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy we finally got our isolation booth sort of done, but at least the inside of it sounds killer. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's awesome.
And my big room sounds really good right now too. Now it's got like a bunch of do-it-yourself absorbers in it and stuff. It looks like Skittles threw up in there, but it's really cool.
It's always
but
tempting to
it's
try to take out too
Hawaii.
much.
You know,
But mine, I never really had a big bass problem. So I did have stuff was bouncing around in there, and when we took the carpet out, I didn't want to turn it back into the carpet. Just make it so that all the highs were gone and it's still muddy as crap. So I used kind of wideband absorbers, just 3-inch safe and sound, just in a bunch of places wherever I could find a flood or echo, and now it sounds really good in there.
It's amazing how you can inexpensively make a room sound fantastic.
Yeah. And
Seriously,
I got
if
lucky
anybody-
here. It's a big room,
if anybody out there knows somebody that works at Roxall, we need an endorsement from them.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
Or
it's-
somebody who works at Owens Corning and can find a way that regular human beings can get 703 into their state. But, this Roxall is so easy to work with and so cheap that I don't mind. I really like it.
Agreed. And 703 was always kind of just slightly twitchy for things.
Yeah. So,
The other thing is, I think we've seen more Sasquatch sightings than I've seen 703 in stores. So,
Yep. Knopf is a little bit easier to find, at least here. The air conditioning supply places have some of the EcoC stuff, but again, for square footage, the Roxall just kills it on price.
Oh, absolutely.
and quite frankly, I think the quality of it's better. Just the sound quality.
I haven't seen the Knopf stuff in person yet, but no, the Roxall's working fine for me. I have the 3 inches through the whole inside of our ISO booth. It sounds there's a little bit. It's a little bit comey. I think I have too thick of a piece of burlap over it, but I'll do something about that soon enough.
Hang a panel of something rigid over the ceiling and see what that does.
Yeah, it could.
That's true. Didn't think about that. Like even just put in a separate piece hanging down a little bit, that might suck that up by just simply making a cloud above it. But on that note, gentlemen, I have to leave.
Okay. Well, I guess I do too. This is an awesome first episode. So hopefully, if people end up liking this, I'm going to do more of these. And thank you very much for being on here, Tim. You got a? I'll try and put a link on it. But if you want to tell people where they can find you, if
oh God, I try
money.
to hide on the internet. So it's that's the whole thing is because of the corporation I work for. I really try to keep a low online profile with this stuff. But
okay, nobody doxed Tim.
But if you buy my company's audio products, which if you buy one of the top two, you will. You can always come to my classes.
Well, we could plug the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely plug your guys' podcast.
Absolutely. If you're into some of the weirdest things in the world, then look for the Tomorrow's End podcast. It is it's more of a radio drama than anything else. We use lots and lots of adult words and adult situations. We've got two women who swear more than pretty much anybody. But it's a hoot. It's an amazing story. Look for the Tomorrow's End podcast on Google, and you will absolutely find us. We're on Amazon, YouTube. We're also on Apple and Google Play and Stitcher. And you name it.
And
I don't know.
It's important to note that's Tomorrow's End. Tomorrow's End is a religious broadcast. That's not us.
Yeah, and they hate us because we are two space Morrow space End, and we're the complete opposite of them. So,
right.
Yeah, we get hate mail.
If somebody doesn't get shot in the face right away, or somebody's not swearing, it's not us.
Yeah, it's the wrong one.
Well, hopefully I did this right, so when I hit stop on here, it's going to actually have recorded it and placed it on here, and then I'm going to strip the audio and possibly end up making a podcast of my own. We'll see about that.
Well, it's Tim. I'm sure he recorded it, so.
Oh.
No, I didn't press record. I didn't. Oh, you know what? I didn't put an SD card in.
And, here I am with all my recording studio worth of stuff. But again, the problem of moving audio from one thing to another on Windows, which is so, have a whole episode on just that. But allegedly, when I hit stop here, this is going to be recorded.
In theory.
Yeah,
you did a
Iron
live.
Angel.
This will be. It'll go straight to your YouTube channel.
Okay, and Iron Angel, you got anything else you need to know about where you're at?
Nothing I can officially announce. We're working on a club. We'll eventually promote that.
Now, where can people buy your custom-made armor for Dean Vendetta guitars?
Find me on Facebook, I guess.
All right.
Iron Angel Forge.
John,
And
you still making the spiked microphones to keep singers from cupping?
A few.
Man.
I haven't done one in a while. And there's going to be a whole lot of weird new stuff soon because I bought a laser cutter. So, yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thank you guys very, very, very much for being on here. And anybody who has actually sat through this whole live thing, thank you. And looks like there's actually a couple people in the chat. Oh, my God. Amazing. All right. So thanks, you guys. I guess I'll see you later. And hopefully I'll have another episode coming on. So this is Pipeline Audio signing out. See you guys.
Bye.
Aloha.